Hello, everyone, and welcome to the tavern. Yeah, I'm in a good mood. It's a nice change of pace, considering what Daredevil Born Again has been putting me through. Today, we're talking about a new Gundam series, which I will admit the initial artwork and trailers did not have me coming into this with a positive mindset. Yeah, after G-Witch, I'm very much in the mindset of like, oh, how bad is this going to get? And when you have it from a staff that is best known for having likable characters but terrible storytelling and endings, that doesn't help. When I got into the show, it turned out to be essentially an alternate universe based on Giren's Greed. And for those who don't know, Giren's Greed is a strategy game where you get to control the One Year War and other major wars in the Universal Century timeline. In this, certain events can occur, like Char captures the Gundam, or the Gundam is destroyed in a major battle, or Rambaral gets access to the Doms instead of the Black Tri-Stars. Things like that can massively alter how the war occurs. And in this timeline, it is more or less stated that Char has the Red Gundam at one point, thus why the Gundam is red, and that Zeon won the war, including referencing Cecilia Zabi and Makuve as being people who are alive. If anything, this timeline has me curious. Without further ado, let's break down Episode 1 of G-Quuuuux, the dumbest named Gundam series. So our story begins promising with a mobile suit battle, which you should always begin with, and the arrival of some troops who are Zeon soldiers who have arrived at Side 6 to hunt down the Red Gundam. We then cut to the colony, where Cell Phone Girl is looking at her cell phone, then School Uniform Girl is being chased. School Uniform Girl crashes into Cell Phone Girl, drops a special device next to her, and gets the heck out of there. Cell Phone Girl ends up scanning the device and discovering that it is a mobile suit key to activate the weapon systems on a mobile suit, which kind of freaks her out. Then we cut back to the Zeon troops, and have decided to deploy the G-Quuuuux, which is equipped with the Omega Psychomu system, which is like the regular Psychomu system, but Omega. Then we cut to kind of a different area, like an industrialized area, and School Uniform Girl and Cell Phone Girl meet again, and in this little meeting, it is discovered that the key is going to be sold to a clan battle team, which are these illegal underground fights. Then we cut to the G-Quuuuux fighting the Red Gundam, and the pilot of the G-Quuuuux is struggling to activate the Psychomu system, and thus having a difficult battle against Red Gundam. Cutting back to the girls, they end up meeting with the clan battle team, which is built up of a group of weirdos, and a Haro with a beanie, which, awesome. I'm a Haro fan. Like a crazy Haro fan. Then the team's conversation is interrupted because the G-Quuuuux and the Red Gundam end up battling and falling into basically the slums section of the colony, and the Red Gundam escapes. This causes major panic, especially as the MPs arrive to take down both pilots because they are friends on neither side, and end up wrecking the little refugee slum area, trying to find the Red Gundam and the G-Quuuuux. Which I do like that bit of world building, showing that the local military forces give zero cares about the civilians, especially refugees and people who have tried to escape the war. Anyhow, in this chaos, Cell Phone Girl, or as I started calling her, Shiro Yui, runs over to the clan battle team's Zaku and tries to activate it, which has this cool little moment where the eye turns from blue to red. It confronts the military police, and they immediately curb stomp her unit. After taking some damage, the G-Quuuuux crashes, and the pilot gets out of his unit, and because he's not in his unit, Shiro Yui basically goes over to the G-Quuuuux, activates it, and tries to fight against the MPs, and struggles, which is nice, because this is her first time in a Gundam, and it probably wouldn't be an easy thing to pilot. In fact, she continues to struggle until suddenly she gets her new type power thing, sees a vision of stuff, and then utilizes the weapons properly and blows away some enemy mobile suits Our episode concludes with the Red Gundam flying past the Zeon ship, and one of the Zeon commander people who had served with Char goes, "That's not Char." And that leads us into our credits. Overall, the plot isn't really a plot per se. This is a lot of setup. But it's pretty good setup and not a bad way to start a series. We get our protagonist inside the Gundam. We get some fighting. We get some mystery about Char. And obviously, for those of us who are Universal Century fans, mystery about how this timeline is different than the one we know. Beyond that, we have some major trouble because there's issues with the characters. One of the biggest flaws of the show is the characters, primarily because there are none. First, we have School Uniform Girl. School Uniform Girl has almost no personality. We know she's a courier and she was trying to make some money delivering some illegal goods to a clan battle team, and I guess she kind of tolerates Cell Phone Girl. That's kind of about it, really. There isn't much here to talk about because she isn't much of a character. We'll just have to see what happens with her. Then we have Cell Phone Girl, who I also occasionally call Shiro Yui. She does take the role of like the hot-blooded protagonist, which I do appreciate. She seems to have a huge interest in mobile suits in general, and seems to have some skill or knowledge on how to pilot them for some reason. But hey, there's a lot of Gundam protagonists who jump into a mobile suit with very little to no training and still hold their own. But in her case, she is also being defeated immediately in that Zaku, and then even struggles in the G-Quuuuux until her new type powers activate and the whole battle changes in terms of the dynamic. And I'm assuming in future episodes, she will continue to have to learn to trigger her new type powers on her own, rather than just have them activate during moments of stress. But we'll see what happens. Otherwise, I think she exists just to have stuff explained to her, so that the audience will also know what's going on, which is a necessary thing in a Gundam series because someone needs to have stuff explained to them in order to have the audience understand what's going on. Or, of course, you can always do what Wing did, which is use the narrator. And yes, for some reason the series reminds me of Wing, and I can't quite figure out why, but I'm sure I'll figure it out as the series continues. Then we have Shalia Bull. And yes, they say his name, so that's why I'll use his name. Interestingly enough, he is a character from the original Gundam series. He is best known for being the new type pilot of the Browbo, I believe, and kind of an interesting battle for Amuro. Apparently he got to live in this timeline, and he is a Zeon from Jupiter, so that makes him kind of interesting and puts him in the same category as Shirako. He apparently served alongside Char at one point or another, and is part of the team that's hunting Char, where he seems to be very mixed about it. Hopefully we'll get to see him in a mobile suit or actually do some actual commander stuff. He seems to be a very calm and contemplative man who is trying to just do his mission, but you can tell he's having some problems with it because he doesn't like the idea of having to go after his old friend, which hopefully will have some interesting payoffs. Then we have Xavier, or Xavier as they call him, because apparently he's French. But then again, Char Aznable is a French name. No, seriously, it is. Char Aznable is actually a musician. Anyhow, his personality is, I am Pilot Man, and I can't get the Saikamu system to work. He ends up getting in a fight, mostly losing, then loses his mobile suit like an idiot. Hopefully he does more. I don't want him to just be guy who loses the G-Quuuuux to our protagonist and then does nothing else for the rest of the show. I can hope that he gets his own Gundam-like, or something happens with him. He seemed interesting at first, and then he just kind of gets his ass kicked, and then loses his mobile suit. So I think there's a potential here for some character growth, but in my notes, I literally called him Pilot Man until I did my second watch through and saw that his name was Xavier, or Xavier, or however the heck it's supposed to properly be pronounced. Overall, the characters are extremely weak. Most of them are one note at best, and the fact that very few of them even have names is kind of a problem. And if this continues, this show's going to be very difficult as I just use the joke names for characters rather than their actual names. Hell, I might do that anyways. And while I can see potential for where they could go in the future, right now, this episode doesn't show any of that. And frankly, based on some stuff that has happened in the past, especially for the previous Gundam series, where the characters had one-note personalities and nothing else, it is very possible we could run into that same problem. However, there was something of this episode that wasn't bland. It was the aesthetics. So let's talk about the visual and audio goodness of this episode. The aesthetics are pretty good. First off, there's one little nitpick I just want to bring up, which is the fact that they have more modern cell phones, and it's always weird to me in Gundam when they have modern cell phones. I like them having some sort of space cell phone. I don't even know how better to call it that. Just something that doesn't look like modern technology. Like it looks like they have technology from the distant future because, they're in the distant future. But otherwise, it's fine. I don't care if characters have cell phones. Just want them to look more space. Then we have the battles. Oh man, are the battles good in this. It's nice being able to actually see the robots without a bunch of fluff all over the screen. And they're actually fighting each other. Some pretty good clashes of beam sabers, the usage of bits, things like that. I do quite appreciate that. The fact that our point of view characters are not super ultimate fighters as well is nice, where they're actually having a struggle against these other pilots or against enemy numbers. And generally, this is some of the best fighting we've seen in Gundam since Iron-Blooded Orphans, and I do appreciate that. The character designs are mid, nothing too spectacular, but they're not terrible. They're just, they're fine. As for the mobile suits, I generally like them. I'm not going to say I love them, but I generally like them. One, everything looks distinctive, which is really nice, versus, say, a previous series where everything kind of had a samey look to them other than one unit. In addition to that, we have stylized but still recognizable as the mobile suits from the original series. So it helps set this apart as its own timeline while also saying, hey, that Zaku, that's clearly a Zaku. That Gundam is clearly a Gundam, etc., etc. The other thing I really liked, as I mentioned in the story segment, is where the mono eye on the Zaku was blue, and then when the key was put in to activate the weaponry systems, it became red. And I really did like that. I liked that changing of the eye color, showing that difference between active and inactive gear. And I'm assuming there's going to be a similar system for other mobile suits as we progress. I think a lot of effort was put into making these mobile suits look distinctive, yet reminiscent of what they're supposed to be, and that really helps with the fighting, as I said, where you really can tell who's fighting who, so that you can understand and enjoy the battles. One of those things you're supposed to do in a Gundam series. The music is fine. The background music is mostly not noticeable. The fight music is okay, it's just good techno beat, but sometimes all you need for a fight scene is good techno beat, so I'm not going to completely hate on that. There are 2 jaunty J-pop songs in the course of this show. They weren't bangers or anything, but I'd listen to the soundtrack. I'm not going to talk about the opening theme or end theme until we actually have that settled. As with many Gundam series, the first episode doesn't have the opening theme, so we're going to have to wait till the next episode to see what song is the opening theme, what song is the end theme. And yes, I'm aware that you can find the music videos for those songs online, but there's something about watching it as part of the show that makes reviewing it more special, I guess. Anyhow, I think they did some great works with visuals, and the audio is passable, so not bad. Good job for first episode. You have me not complaining about the visual or audio design of the series. And as long as we don't have horrible auto-tuned garbage music, I think I'm going to generally like how the audio goes. All right, let's wrap it up. As I said before, there are issues with the story. Also, the fact that there's no major themes really being built up yet versus a lot of other series that get those themes really out there from the get-go. Such as the environmentalism theme of G Gundam being brought up in the first episode, the cycle of violence being brought up in the first episode of Zeta Gundam, things like that. Though I do think they've done some good work at trying to establish the world. Again, you have those refugees that are just being treated like they're fodder. You have the Zeon military referencing how they won the war. Little things like that that definitely have me intrigued. That being said, we've done female protagonists before and it was terrible. So I am a little bit worried that they're going to screw this up. But you know what? I am very cautiously optimistic about the rest of the series. I have worries about the ending based on the pedigree of the creators, but I think up until that point, it'll probably be an enjoyable ride. That's why my final verdict for episode 1 of G-Quuuuux is 3 out of 5. Despite its flaws, this was a generally enjoyable episode. We have great visuals, especially the fights, and we have an intriguing world that has kept me interested enough to want to watch episode 2. However, our characters are more or less blank slates, and the music is kind of mid. One of the things I will say is that I am grateful that this was an enjoyable watch, because I really needed this after dealing with some other shows. But, you know what I'm more curious about? What do you think about this episode? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Do you think it's kind of in that, but it's probably gonna get better, like I am? I'm really curious to know. Before I go, I just want to thank you for watching, and thank you to all my 1,000 plus subscribers. You guys make this whole process worth it. Let's hope that G-Quuuuux continues this level of quality, or ideally gets better. And until next time, I'm the Dapper Bard, and I'll see you at the tavern.